Okay, guys, today we're going to be jumping to our next part of the unit. This part is going to be volume. So we'll talk about what volume is, and we're going to be finding volume of cubes and rectangular prisms. Okay, so first let's go ahead and talk about what volume is. So volume, and this should sound familiar from science, but volume is the measurement of how much space a three-dimensional solid object takes up. So real quick, um, I may have gone over this with you, but remember that uh, dimensions tell you how many really directions a uh, shape or uh, object takes up. So, like one dimension would be maybe like a line right here, right? This is one dimension. Why is it one dimension? Because it only can go one way, back and forth, right? It can't go up or down. It can only go back and forth. So, like a line is what we would call one dimensional. A two-dimensional shape would go like this, right? It has a length and it has a width, so it has two dimensions. A three-dimensional shape, now we're going another direction. So not only a three-dimensional shape will not only have a length, a width, but it will also have like a height. So I'm just drawing a little rectangle right here. Boom, this is three-dimensional. So you see it not only has a length and a width, or it has a length, a width, and a height, right? So three dimensions, it just has those three different dimensions, length, width, height. So a one-dimensional shape, or a one-dimensional thing, only has one, like a length. Two-dimensional shape has a length and a width. Three-dimensional shape has a length, width, and height, okay? So what are we actually trying to figure out when we find volume? Well, we're trying to figure out how much space it takes up. And we can tell how much space it takes up by how many little cubes fit into that shape, whatever shape we're doing. So I draw this little cube. It's not a very well drawn cube, but imagine we're trying to figure out how many cubes can we put into that shape. And whatever unit we're talking about, that's what the cube's dimensions are. So like if this is an inch cube, the length, width, and height are all 1 inch. So we can say, hey, this is however many cubes fit in there, that's how much the volume is. Okay, so volume is measured in, you call them cubic units, right? So like whenever you're doing area, you were saying, hey, we can fit this many squares in here. So there were square units. Volume, we're measuring in cubic units, and that's saying, hey, we can fit this many cubes into this shape. Okay, so that's all we're trying to find when we find volume. How many cubes of space does this shape take up? Okay, we have two different shapes we can calculate the volume of. First is a rectangular prism. Rectangular prism is three-dimensional, meaning it has a length, a width, and a height, whose sides are all, well, at least two of the sides are going to be different. Okay? A cube is a three-dimensional shape where all sides are the same. So this is very important. So if you have a cube, every single side is the same. The length, the width, the height, every single side is the same measure. They're all congruent, right? Maybe that's the better word to put here. If you haven't written down, maybe write congruent. That's probably the better word. They're all congruent. They're the same length. Okay, so we have some formulas. Remember, whenever you have a formula, we get them from our star charts. You don't have to memorize these, which is nice, but you do have to know how to use your star chart, or else you will have to memorize them, which you don't want to. I want you to make sure you can use your star chart. So if you're asked to find the volume of a cube, you're going to go to your star chart, find volume, find cube, and you're going to see that to find the volume of a cube, you're going to do side times side times side. Okay, so you're going to take your side, you're going to multiply that number 3 times. Okay, rectangular prism, it gives you two options. I'm going to do, one of them is like the 5th grade easier way, and then one of them you'll use more next year, but you can still use it this year too. So when you have a rectangular prism, so when you notice your sides are different sizes, that's probably going to be a rectangular prism. You can use length times width times height. So this is perfectly good formula. You can use it. It'll get you the correct volume. Length, take the length, multiply by the width, get that answer, multiply by the height. Now, starting next year on your formula chart, you won't have this formula anymore. You'll have this formula V equals capital BH, capital B lowercase h. And that just means, or the capital B means area of the base. Okay. which is an important concept, especially starting next year, but you get introduced to it this year. So you find area of the base by multiplying the length and the width of the base, and then you multiply that area by the height, and you'll get the volume. So either way these work, either way works, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and do some practice now. So we're going to calculate the volume of the cube shown below. Okay, so I'm going to not just start, I'm going to kind of fill out some information first. So first, I'm going to write down the formula. So I have a cube. I'm finding the volume. I look at my formula chart. I see its volume equals side times side times side. So I'm going to take whatever the side is, I'm going to multiply it 3 times. So what is my side here? My side length is 4. Every side length on this shape is 4 because that's a cube. Cube, every side is the same. So I'm going to do 4 times 4 times 4. Okay, so solve this. Do 4 times 4, I get 16. I'm going to multiply that by 4. Can't do that in my head. I'm just going to work off over here. Put in a little extra work to double check, triple check, make sure I get it right? 6 times 4 is 24. Going to carry my 2. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 2 more, 5, 6. So V equals 64 inches. Now remember, what are we actually talking about when we're talking about volume? We can fit 40 or 64 cubes that are 1 inch by 1 inch or cubic inches, right, into this shape, right? So I don't actually put a 2 up here anymore. That would mean I fit 64 flat squares in here. That's not really what's happening. I can fit 64 little cubes into the shape that are 1 inch long. So we use cubes. So the cube is a 3 now, which I kind of tie it back to 3-dimensional. Okay, so if you're doing volume, you're working 3-dimensional. That's one way you can remember to put your unit as a 3. Whenever you're doing area, you're doing 2-dimensional. That's how you can maybe remember to put your area as a 2. But jumping back to volume, this is how you say inches cubed. You put the small little 3, 64 inches cubed. Okay. All right, so that's the first one. That was a cube. Next one, we have another cube right here. This one doesn't tell me numbers, but we can count, right? We know we need to know the length. How long is it? How wide is it? And how tall is it, right? I guess we just need to know one of the side lengths, actually, because it's a cube, right? It says it's a cube in the problem. Then we got to find the volume. So first, volume equals side times side times side. Volume equals, what is the side length? If I count my cubes, 1, 2, 3. So my side length is 3 units. So to find the volume, I'm going to multiply 3 times 3 times 3. Okay. And then I need to just solve that. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 3 is 27. And then you may say, well, what unit are we going to say? Well, I don't know what the cubes are, but I know there's actually 27 cubes in this shape, right? If you can kind of have X-ray vision, you would be able to count all the cubes, and there would be a total of 27. So we can just say cubes. 27 cubes inside the shape. Okay, that's really what volume's saying anyways. It's saying how much space does the shape take up. The space is taking up 27 cubes of space, whatever those cubes are. Okay, we do have 2 pages of notes on this, so let's go ahead and flip over to the back. We're going to calculate the volume of the rectangular prism shown below. So we're not working with the cube anymore, we're working with the prism. So I'm going to do the volume equals, if I look at a rectangular prism, I'm going to use length times width times height. So I'm going to plug in my numbers. It's 10 centimeters long, 2 centimeters wide, times 5 centimeters tall. Okay, to solve this, I can now multiply. I have all my numbers. Do 10 times 2 is 20, times 5 becomes 100. My unit is centimeters, and 100 cubes that are a centimeter long will fit into there. So 100 centimeters cubed will fit into there. Okay, I'm going to skip this one just because the video, don't want it to go too long. We're going to do this last one right here. And you may be wondering, what is this shape? What is going on? Okay, so right here, we want to find the total volume of the rectangular prism. So the kind of white shape right here. And so what happens, sometimes they'll give you this weird looking shape with these cubes kind of filled in. All the cubes are doing is basically telling you how much length, width, and height the shape has. Okay, so you may have to count that. Rather than it telling you 10, 2, 5, it'll stack 10 cubes this way, 2 cubes this way, and 5 cubes up, right? And you just kind of got to figure it out what the shape would be if their cubes were all filled in. Okay, so we're going to use volume equals, this is a rectangular prism, so we're going to use I'm going to use the formula length times width times height again. And then I'm going to plug in the numbers here. Now, what is the length? How long is this shape? Well, I got to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 units long, or 9 cubes long. What's the width? How wide is it? 1, 2, 3. And yeah, I got to count both sides of this corner shape right here. So make sure you count both sides of that. So I see 3. How tall is my shape? 1. Yes, I still got to count that one, even though I counted it for the length. 2, 3. Okay. Now this volume, or this multiplication, will actually tell me how many of these cubes would fit total in this shape. So let's go ahead and find the volume. 9 times 3 is 27. Times 3. All right, I can't do 27 times 3 in my head. I'm not going to try. I want to be successful, so I'm going to go off over here to the side and work it out. 7 times 3 is 21. Carry my 2. 3 times 2 is 6. Plus 2 that I carried is 8. Okay, so I got 81. I don't think it tells me the units. So again, I'm just going to say 81 cubes fill up this shape. Okay, and that is your lesson on volume. Make sure you go ahead and do your practice. If you have any extra questions or need any extra help, make sure you come ask. That'll be the end of the video.